Hi folks, welcome to the show, where today we're going to be looking at the iconic, beloved animated classic, Cinderella. Well, I guess Cinderella's off the table. So, without further ado, let's take a look inside the Jungle Book. How? You know, I really want to hit my head against the wall right now, but I just don't have any reason to. Oh, that'll work. Yes, the Disney remakes, also known as Why God Why, are live-action reimaginings of beloved animated classics that, I don't know, exist, I guess. Now, I for one find these movies painfully boring, poorly acted, and just overall an insult to the artists that created the original. But I guess I'm in the minority there. This trend mainly began in 2010 with Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. Oh, I'm sorry, Underland. That is part sequel, part retelling of the iconic 1950s story about a girl getting trapped in a world of nonsense, known for its stunning, surreal visuals, bizarre concepts, and memorable characters. Now, I'll give some credit to the remake for at least trying to be its own thing. It still failed in every single aspect, but hey, it tried. You see, Mr. Tim creates wonderful original ideas but can't adapt someone else's work to save his own life. Burton tried to turn Alice in Wonderland into this young adult fantasy chosen one story with dreary visuals, sword fights, and that. Which is all well and good, except for one issue. This is what you're remaking. But hey, it made money, so we get at least 3 of these per year. Now all these movies fall into one of 2 categories. There's the ones that try to be as different from the original as possible, to a point where the only thing they have in common is the same name, and the ones that try to be as close to the original as possible, so you wonder what's the point in even remaking it. Now I could spend the next hour ranting about how the Cinderella from the 50s was a more compelling and progressive character than the Cinderella in the remake, or how Beauty and the Beast 2017 tries to create a compelling romance without any actual romance. But that would require me to actually watch these movies again, and since I don't hate myself that much, I'm instead going to use this time to politely ask you all to stop asking for a Treasure Planet remake! Yes, we all know how great Lion King 2019 and Jungle Book 2016 are at existing, but that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is 3 Disney movies people are begging to be remade. More specifically, why they're wrong. With the introduction of the Lady and the Tramp remake on Disney Plus in 2019, the floodgates have officially opened, and no movie is safe. So allow me to waste your time by telling you why movies that are probably already in production shouldn't be made. Now I know what you're all thinking, and yes, I can read minds. Why would you choose to talk about Oliver and Company over movies like The Great Mouse Detective or Fox and the Hound? No reason. So yeah, not a ton of people are asking for this movie to be remade. Most likely because every year on my birthday I wish it never will be. But I think Oliver and Company is a perfect example of a movie that could not work outside of its original context. Simply put, out of all Disney movies, Oliver and Company is a time capsule of when it was made. This movie is so unapologetically set in the 80s, from its fashion to its voice cast. Everything from the dialogue to the music to the characters doesn't work if you take it out of that time period. And while the 80s era is pretty big right now, most movies and shows only really use it as a background. They still feel like contemporary pieces of media when it comes to their writing. That simply would not work with Oliver and Company. While a remake of Oliver and Company would give them a chance to fix issues with the story and give a little more depth to the characters, it wouldn't be worth enduring a modern version of the soundtrack complete with painful auto-tuning and whatever semi-relevant pop singer Disney can get. Not to mention photorealistic characters that don't emote. Also, say goodbye to the Bob Fosse-style choreography that used New York as a stage to create fun and energetic musical numbers, and say hello to characters singing and walking, because we'd be getting a whole lot of that. The bottom line is, this movie needs to be more appreciated, but not like this. Now it seems every week a new article is released claiming that an Atlantis remake is in production, before instantly being debunked. It's gotten to a point where when they inevitably announce it, this is going to be my reaction. The animation for Atlantis was heavily inspired by the style of comic artist Mike Mignola, to a point where he was brought on as a designer for the movie. This gives Atlantis such a different look to other Disney movies, which works because Atlantis is like nothing else made by the company, and it led to the film having some of the best sequences of hand-drawn animation in history. So much of this movie is told through its powerful visuals. If you took all that away and put it in live action, you would really be taking away what makes that movie so special. By the early 2000s, character animation for the studio had pretty much reached its peak, and I fully believe Atlantis exists just to show that off. I mean, just look at it. I would honestly consider animators on par with the greatest actors of our time, and this shows you exactly why. You can't have this kind of flowing motion and expression in live action. You can't understand an entire personality just from the way a character walks in live action. But people are still going to try saying this movie would work so much better in live action just because it's not a fairy tale musical. And that just makes me sad. So much talent and hard work goes unappreciated by people insisting this movie would work if they remade it in live action. This movie serves as a reminder that animation will always be less appreciated than live action, when it should be the other way around. Here we are, Treasure Planet. The reason I wanted to make this video in the first place. I constantly see people saying this movie deserves a second chance, which I agree with. What I don't agree with is that people think a second chance exclusively means a live action remake. Now, do I consider this the worst movie to remake? Is it a time capsule of a bygone era that should be left alone like Oliver? No. Does it have unique visuals heightened by its medium like Atlantis? Yes, but that's not the main reason. No, the reason I don't want to see Treasure Planet remade is the biggest reason I dislike these live action remakes. They disrespect the people that made the original. Know these guys? Well, you certainly know their work. Ron Clements and John Musker are names to be revered in animation for their work during the Disney Renaissance as well as later projects. See, back in the 80s, Disney animation was in trouble, and the studio needed a hit, so in 1985 they held what would come to be known as a gong show, a chance for animators to rapidly fire off ideas for new movies. Though the only noteworthy project greenlit from the first show would be an idea simply referred to as Oliver Twist with dogs. But Ron and John pitched two ideas that they were extremely passionate about. An adaptation of Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid, and an idea they called Treasure Island in Space. While eventually Little Mermaid would get the green light, the duo continued working on their passion project and pitched it multiple times to the same answer. No. 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 Alright, fine. So in 2002, 17 years after the idea had originally been rejected, Treasure Planet was released, and they sent it out to die the same time a Harry Potter and James Bond movie were being released. But you know what? That almost doesn't matter. Sure, the movie wasn't successful financially and would have been lost to time had it not been for the rise of the modern internet, but this movie was very successful creatively. There is not a single second of this movie where you can't tell how passionate the people making it were and how much they believed in it. More so than any other Disney movie. Everything about it feels 100% genuine. The characters, the emotion, the story. This movie exists to be everything the remakes are not. Heartfelt, challenging, and creatively driven. I really don't have time to get into how great every little thing in this movie is right now. So I'm linking an amazing video by the YouTuber known as Breadworld that goes into more detail than I ever could. The point is, Treasure Planet is as close to a perfect movie as you can get. But people still want a remake that waters all that down and puts nowhere near the amount of effort in. Remaking Treasure Planet wouldn't be giving it a second chance because it wouldn't be Ron and John's Treasure Planet. It would be someone else's. And I don't think that's how we should treat arguably the best directors in animation. You want to give Treasure Planet a second chance? Great! Watch it multiple times a day on Disney Plus. Buy it. Show Disney this movie has a fan base and what they did to it was a mistake. But please stop asking them to remake it. If for no other reason than to spare the world from having to witness the nightmare fuel that will be a hyper-realistic CGI morph. So there you have it. Why people need to stop begging Disney to remake their underrated classics. But that won't stop anything, will it? No, in a few years, all these movies will have come out, made a ton of money, and then just as quickly disappeared from the public consciousness. They'll be abandoned on Disney Plus, only remembered for effects that will soon be outdated and how much money they made, while everyone continues to celebrate the original. This whole thing is a trend after all, and like all trends, people will eventually move on. So, does any of this even matter? No, Michael B. Jordan shouldn't play Hercules. He can't even sing. Alexa, play A Friend Like Me.
Friend Like Me by Will Smith on Amazon Music.
Disney animated movies exist to challenge their audience with bold new ideas and characters they'll fall in love with again and again. The remakes exist only to pacify their audience by vaguely resembling what they're familiar with, without any of the heart or passion that made those movies timeless classics to begin with. Thanks for watching, folks. See you real soon.